What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio, transmitting from the future free state of Greater Idaho. I am the one armed madman, and back with me today, we've got the great Bob Lament. Bob, it's a pleasure to have you as always.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing good, getting by. We're finally starting to cool down here in Idaho. Winter is coming,
Yeah.
as they say in Game of Thrones. Winter
Are
is
you
coming.
ready? That's the question, right?
Never. I'm never ready. There's always work
No.
that needs to be done on the house, the yard. I went and pulled a bunch of sunflowers today because I have sunflowers like lining the exterior of my yard. You would
Oh,
think
yeah.
in Idaho that like you have beautiful skies and beautiful stars and stuff like that, but man, where I live, it's like city of industry and lights fucking everywhere. So I
Really? You got a lot of light
Oh, it's
pollution?
horrible, dude. Light pollution up the ass. Like, we had better
Oh,
stars in
man.
Northern California. Like, you can't see shit up here for stars.
That's
It's
terrible.
awful. I hate it. And like, as like a libertarian, like I always, this is one of the things that I struggle with a lot is like businesses should be allowed to do what they want, but at the same time, stop fucking up my skies. Like maybe put some
Right.
hoods over your lights or use some
Right,
diffuse
yeah, well, I was gonna
lighting.
say, can't they, put a hood or a snoot or something on it and keep it
Something.
so it's where it's supposed to be, not everywhere,
Something
you
you're
know?
screwing it up for everybody. And like where I live,
Yeah.
dude, there's no crime here. Why do you have to
Well,
have your lights on 24/7? There's no fucking crime and you have insurance. Like these
you
car dealerships are out of control with the lights.
you'd think they would have some at this point. I mean, we have the technology. This is the crazy part.
Yeah. They
Where
do it
maybe
in
you leave a couple of them on like near the door and then the rest would just be motion censored.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
when somebody comes in, then the lights come on and light everything up. But then whenever nobody's there, you're saving money.
And
So
they do it on the big island in Hawaii because they have all those observatories. They use all
right.
diffuse lightings and hoods.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an easily solvable
Mhm.
problem, but
I
no one wants to solve it,
I
right?
think there's a concerted effort to keep us from looking at the stars because it makes you believe in something larger than yourself. It lets you think about things that, the government and the people in charge don't want you to think about. They want you
I
to be
think I think you have
scared and
something on that one.
I really think it's like the craziest conspiracy theory that I have is they don't want you to see the stars, but it just seems like you said these are easily solvable problems and like the
Yeah,
stars is something that like we should all be able to see. Like we've got little kids in this area that have never seen stars before. Like I
that's
remember when I
crazy.
first moved here, I was talking to a lot of the guys that I worked with and we were talking about an amusement park at one point, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, I've never been on a roller coaster," and I was like, "Man, that's kind of
Yeah, it
jacked up.
sucks.
Like every kid should be able to go on a roller coaster, but the
Yeah.
stars is even worse. Like kids aren't even able to see the stars anymore."
Right, you should be able to, you do the thing when you're little and you camp in the backyard, right? So you
Yeah,
go out and lay down and look up at the sky and see what's happening up there.
I wanted to buy
Yeah.
a telescope at one point because I love astronomy. Like I think it's so fascinating, and I like looking through telescopes. But it's pointless to have one here because you can't fucking see anything, you know. And I'd have to
That's
go out of
horrible.
town and drive an hour to go and just be able to use a telescope, which is crazy. Like as a
Right.
kid in Northern California, we were 100 miles from San Francisco. You would think that we had terrible skies, but man, we'd sit out in the hot tub at night and you'd see shooting stars and satellites and all kinds of
Mhm.
cool stuff. And here you can't see any of it. Every once in a while, if I'm lucky, I'll see a shooting star. Actually, like last year at one point, I saw it was probably the coolest natural phenomenon I've ever seen in my life. It was
Mhm.
this massive, bright green shooting star that just like fell out of the sky. It wasn't over above me, it was like out. So it
Oh,
looked
yeah.
like it just fell beyond the horizon and it looked like somebody spilled a bucket of neon paint down the sky.
Oh, wow, that's
It was
cool.
so beautiful. Like I've never seen
Yeah.
anything like it before. It was awesome.
We, w I haven't seen that, but I took my kids to the drive-in when they were little, and we saw the Perseid meteor shower
Mm.
above the screen. So it was wild because we were waiting. I think we were waiting for the movie to start or whatever. Anyway, and it wasn't lit up. And yeah, you got to see all these the meteors falling into the atmosphere and burning up over the top of the drive-in screen. Which I don't know if people have drive-ins anymore, but we have a couple around here, and it's one of those things, kind of like going out and camping in the backyard. I think it's one of those things that there should be more of, because it's kind of fun, you go and you have a whole evening
Yeah.
of that, and you get to see the stars, and you get to see a movie and have fun, and it's not, anything terrible. So
Yeah, it makes you like open-minded and you think
yeah,
about things, what's out
good
there.
questions.
It makes you realize like how small and insignificant we
Hmm.
are right now. There's just and speaking of that, this one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was NASA picked the worst possible day to have a press release. They released a press release saying that they think they might have found life on Mars, and they released it on the day that Charlie Kirk was killed. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
I
so
didn't. I
nobody
didn't
saw
see
it.
that.
Yeah,
So
nobody saw it. So what happened is they found a sample with one of their rovers, and
uh-huh.
they looked at it and they were like, "Man, this looks like life. Like we
Yeah.
can't really determine how this, would be a natural phenomenon aside from life." And they sent it
Hmm.
out. This was like a year ago or so that they found it. So they sent it out to a bunch of different,
Right.
individual scientists and labs who all looked at it, and they all came back with the same thing. They think it's life. And to me, like life on Mars is cool for so many reasons, but like
Yeah.
mainly you go in and you look at it, if it has DNA, like that's interesting because
Hmm.
DNA can exist in two places. If the
True.
DNA is similar to something that lives here on Earth today or lived here in the past, that's interesting because it means
Hmm.
that panspermia is possible and life can
Right.
spread from
Yeah.
one planet to another. And if it's different than anything we've seen on Earth, that's cool too because we know that abiogenesis is possible in multiple places.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know that there's the whole theory that we came from Mars.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen that theory, but
Yep.
and that there's a big scar on Mars that people speculate that it had to do with nuclear uh, like
Yeah,
explosions.
there's I've heard that theory before that
Yeah,
there's,
and
like,
so wouldn't it
elements
be
and stuff.
wild, if
I've
I mean
I've
that's a pretty
also
wild
heard
theory, but
yeah, I've also heard, like, an Anunnaki theory, essentially, that, like, that scar was caused from I don't remember if it was I think it was a moon might have hit it,
oh,
or, like,
hit
a
it,
a
yeah,
planet
right,
might have hit it at some point,
yeah,
and it
hmm,
just caused this massive scar because that scar is kind of different on Mars. Like when you look at the rest of the planet, it doesn't
hmm,
really have stuff like that on it. So,
no,
and it
something happened, obviously, yeah,
exactly, and it doesn't look like it was water that caused it.
right. It's not erosion; it's like something. uh, Blew up or
Mhm.
blew it made it explode or something happened and threw stuff everywhere and left this giant, gaping wound on the planet.
Valles
Yeah, it's
marinaris,
weird.
I think it's called.
What?
I think it's called Valles marinaris.
Oh, right. Oh, the name. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't recall that, but yeah, I
I love
believe you.
space. I love
Sounds good to
space.
me.
Yeah, man, I love that theory, and I've always been interested in, like, the face and some of these, like, geometric figure like,
Mhm.
things that they found on Mars that look like they have right angles, and, right
Mhm.
angles don't appear in nature, so, like,
Right.
how did those get there, And
Yeah.
millions of
There's a
years
lot of
ago,
questions.
Mars would have been more habitable than the Earth.
Yeah. It could have been. I mean, it's still in the in the neighborhood, so we're in the Goldilocks zone, and so yeah, maybe the Goldilocks zone was a little bit bigger,
You never know,
so
right?
we could be in the same could have been in the same location, or the other thing is that it's changed its orbit because of that explosion,
Mhm.
and that's what's made it uninhabitable, not because it was originally uninhabitable, but it became uninhabitable.
And we've got
So
that big asteroid belt out there that I
right,
mean, I've heard that there's enough material within the asteroid belt that there could have been like a planet or a
another
large
planet, yeah,
body that
hmm,
somehow had a big collision with something. And now we
right.
have this huge asteroid belt.
Now we could extrapolate from that. So there's the whole theory that the moon, our moon, the moon here for the Earth, was put in place, right? So maybe that was the failure on Mars. They were trying to put a moon in place,
Yeah, right?
and they ran. They go, "Uh oh, we overshot. Well, this is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
We hit the planet." I mean, I'm just being goofy, but but there is that theory, and so it all kind of ties together with the fact that we know so little about why these things happen, because the moon has all kinds of quirkiness to it about its size and how it revolves around the planet and so forth. And so, and it's in an asynchronous orbit, right? So I saw
Yeah.
the moon this morning when I was driving around.
Yeah, we
You
had
know,
almost full moon the last
daytime
couple days.
moon.
Yeah.
There it is, right there.
Yeah, it's
Which,
so weird, right? And
well, people don't. The funny thing is, people don't talk about it too much. If you tell people, "Oh, the moon was out during the day," they're like, "Huh? Yeah, it
yeah.
happens all the time.
Yeah.
Today, you were driving. We were driving right into it, basically on the highway."
It's
So
so cool. And like we
yeah.
almost live in a double planetary system because the moon is so big. And like
Hmm.
I don't think we've really found any planets that like, small rocky planets that have a moon of that size. Like I know
Right.
Jupiter has some big moons, but Jupiter's a big gas giant, so like that would
Right.
make
It's a
sense
huge
that it would have
planet.
big moons. But
Yeah.
I don't think we found rocky planets with moons that big. And I know
And
that they've been able to
I think
use
their moons
James.
spin though. I think their moons are asynchronous, not asynchronous.
Oh,
And
really? Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that they spin on their own axis and follow the planet, right? So they follow around the planet. So all sides can be seen. Where ours, the dark side of the moon is not dark. The dark side of the moon is just we can't see it.
Yep. And it looks
And
completely different than the
yeah,
Earth side of the moon, which is strange. I saw
yeah.
something on Twitter a couple weeks ago that I thought was interesting. It was on some like flat Earth handle,
Right,
and
yeah.
which I've never gotten into flat Earth, but I think it's fun. I
It is
like
fun.
I like fun
Everything, it's
theories.
always fun to speculate on
Yeah.
everything.
So it lined up like all of the dark spots on the moon with the flat earth, and it looks kind of like a reflection of what the continents would look like if the earth was
Oh,
flat.
cool.
And it's like a reflection of it, which is kind of
That's
interesting.
wild.
Yeah. It was very close, which I thought was interesting.
I haven't seen that. That's interesting.
Have you ever seen flashes on the moon before?
I've seen him on videos and stuff, but I've never seen it myself. But
No, me
yeah,
neither. I'm always looking when it's a full moon. Like I sit out in my hot tub every night and I'm always looking up there to see if I see something like that, but I've never
yeah,
seen
it would
one.
be cool. I mean, it'd be cool to catch stuff like that, and it's just you just how it just all happenstance, right?
Mhm.
There's no timing on it where you can say, yeah, we're gonna go out there at 5 o'clock, and boom, there it is. So yeah, it's just one of those things you just get lucky, I think.
And we just know so little about, the universe that we live in, the world we live in. Like we don't know our history, human history. It kind of just ends at like 4,000 years ago. We
Right.
don't really know anything
Well,
about our
they're
past.
starting to come around because of Gobekli Tepe
Yep.
and some other ones that it's more than 10,000 years where we had what would be considered, modern civilization where people clumped together and get made a go of it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that tide is turning, right? I think that tide, I think they're going to finally say, yeah, you know what? And I think in Malta, I think it was is 20,000 years.
Yeah.
They've got stuff that's 20,000 years old that they've been able to date with current technology, and they've tried it several times, so it's not like it's just a one off.
Yep. And
And
we're
yeah.
finding signs of humans in North America that are just going back and back and back. So
Hmm.
like I read a book recently, it was a sci-fi book about Atlantis, and like one of the things that happened in the book was the Toba supervolcano went off, and there was these aliens on Earth that were like watching humans, evolve
Hmm.
as scientists, and it like essentially wiped out all but a small group of humans somewhere in Africa. This was like
Hmm.
200,000 years ago. And so they come in and tinker with our brains to give us the ability to survive in this, nuclear winter essentially. But dude,
Right.
we might find signs of humans that old on North America and South America for all we know. We
Hmm.
haven't dug that deep yet. And like I
Right.
know we're finding stuff that's like 20 to 30,000 years old now, and which is
Hmm.
blowing out of that stupid theory that I've always hated even as a kid was that overkill theory that like Native Americans came over here 10,000 years ago and wiped out all the megafauna.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
stupid.
I mean, that doesn't sound too feasible, but
They
I
lived
don't know.
with the land. They were,
Yeah.
one with the land. I don't think they were dumb enough to wipe out entire species, and, like, it never made sense to
No,
me.
but maybe that's what turned the culture, though. I mean,
Could be.
if you were to take it in that route, you're like, okay, the last generation, really effed up, so we got to do a little bit better.
Yeah. I just feel
'Cause
like it would take so long to do that.
yeah,
North America is
right.
so huge, and there was so much life here pre-Ice
Hmm.
Age, and, like, I don't even know how many humans it would take to wipe it all out. It just seems like a strange
Yeah,
theory to
it
me.
seems a little bit out there, but I mean, everything has a everything's out there for a reason, and you I think you have to entertain all ideas until they kind of fall off the map
We're
completely
never
because of
really gonna
something else.
know. It happened
No,
so
probably
long
not.
ago, and, like, all of the
Everything's
if there
ground up.
was humans here long before, the land bridge opened up in 10,000 BC, they probably lived on the coastlines, and all of that shit's
Right.
underwater now, so it's not like we're gonna really be able to dig down and find too much from them. Like, I'm sure some
Right.
of them lived inland, but, for the most part, ancient people lived on coastlines. We still live on
Yeah.
coastlines. Most of the
Well,
people in the world live on coastlines.
the crazy thing, in St. Louis, the largest population of organized people was here.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
yeah. So if you look up Cahokia Mounds, and the mound builders,
Yeah,
here for North America, not South America, but for North America, this was the largest contingent of people, the Cahokia, um, and they disbanded. I mean, something happened to wipe them out, and they just fragmented. But there was like at the time, I think it was like 10 to 20,000 people who lived in Cahokia, and yeah, and so as far as the native American settlements, it was the largest one right here on the Mississippi.
interesting.
Yeah, well, I always like to. Yeah, I love to talk about that. The funny thing though is like I drive by there a lot, and the funny thing is the dump is across the highway from Cahokia, where the Cahokia Mound is.
So we're
It's
doing the
bigger
same
than the
thing.
mound.
Yeah,
Our dump is bigger than the
we're
mound.
making our own mounds,
Yeah.
right? Like, thousands of years
God, they're
from now,
garbage.
if we're not around, like, some aliens could come down here and be like, "Oh, look, we've got mounds that
Yeah.
for 20,000 years, these people were making mounds."
They're making mounds. Well, there's all these the thing they were mound builders, and so they had the big mounds called Monk's Mound, and you can climb on top of it. It's really tall, but and then they made little ones, and they're all over the place. And for years and years, farmers would hit them, and bones would pop out. So and then they have a big park now where they encompass a lot of them that were close to the big one, so that they don't do that. They don't scatter their bones around. But the St. Louis is called Mound City because as for whenever they first got here, all you see were these mounds because they made them as part of kind of ritualistic things, as part of burials, and then as part of defense because they could get up on the mound
Yeah,
and they could see, because it gets fairly flat whenever you get to the by the river. Once you get off the bluff, it's fairly flat, right? So then they get up there for defense and they could see if there's any enemies coming. And so it's all kind of fascinating,
yeah,
all of it. And then but it fell apart before people settled, before the Europeans settled the area. It all had already fallen apart,
yeah.
but they don't know why. And so I don't think they still don't know why.
No, we'll
But
never know why. It's just it
it was a
happened so
huge
fucking long
population
ago.
center
Yeah.
in the country
I read a
back in the day when I
yeah.
was a Cahokia.
I read another book recently. It was about a town in West Virginia that goes back in time. Like,
Oh,
some, scientific
yeah.
research is going on. They make a particle accelerator that, like, takes the whole town back in time. And there's this, like, ancient mound site that's
Mhm.
within the area that's moving back in time. And they go back in
Oh,
time at one point, and there's some native woman, like, on one of the mounds, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" She's like, "Oh, this is god of the hunt, and I'm spitting on his grave because he was a piece of shit," essentially. And they're like, "Well, this mound's 15 feet long and 5 feet high. This isn't, a god. This was probably some chief that, you know, wanted himself to be looked at as a
Right,
god,
important.
so they made his mound super big, and then they go back in time again. Turns out it was a 15-foot guy, and it was a Nephilim, and the Nephilim was a
Well,
mean son of a bitch.
I was what was I watching? Okay, I'm gonna throw it out the window here, but I was watching Ancient Aliens the other day, and they were talking about the bird people,
Mm,
and they had a thing on there about Cahokia, which I had never heard this, but one of the mounds that they unearthed had two people in it, and they had shell like freshwater shells made in they were buried there, had freshwater shells laid out like wings in the shape of wings.
interesting.
And they were laid on them as if they were a winged thing in the mound. I'd never ever heard this. And so but I mean they showed images from, the place and so forth. At least that's what they said. So but yeah, it was just interesting because then they had, there's the whole, you said Nephilim, right?
Yeah,
So the winged beings, and this one was specifically they were talking about like in Egypt where they have the people bodies with the bird heads, right? So they have heads that
Horus.
look like a hummingbird looking head and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So, but apparently they had that here too, which I never have heard that theory before, and it just came across. I'm like, well, I don't think I've ever even seen that.
So
I
weird,
I
right?
went to I went to the Cahokia Park twice because both my kids they do field trips, and so I went on field trips with them both times. They didn't mention it in the field trip, so
It's so
um,
interesting how there's things on different sides of the world that look the same. So, like, I don't
yeah.
know really how to describe this, but you've got these big megalithic blocks that are like turned into walls. And
Hmm.
instead of having like flat seams, the seams kind of like mold together. And sometimes
Hmm.
you've got these weird joints and everything. And I heard a theory about this recently that I thought was pretty interesting because nobody really knows how they did this and how they made these
Right.
things fit together in that way. But I heard somebody say that they might have used bird shit as like
Really?
and created acid out of bird shit and essentially like
Oh,
set these rocks on top of each other and let the acid eat them away until they kind
and
of
then they
melted
melted.
in, which
Yeah.
I thought was pretty interesting, you know?
That is interesting. Yeah, because the wild thing, I think it's in Peru. I think
Yeah.
it's in
But they
Machu
have them
Picchu.
in Egypt too.
Yeah, that where they you can see the different eras. So like with the base and everything looks fantastic,
Yep.
and then you get higher up and they built upon it, and it all looks like shit. It's like
Yep.
who are these? These
Yep.
guys were the remedial builders that built on top of this because none of their rocks are as big. Number one, they're not giant; they're smaller, and then they don't fit together the same way. It looks like two totally different, styles of building,
Yeah.
but they built on top of these megalithic structures because they were there and they were stable. Yeah, but it is interesting because there is that theory that they were not. It's kind of like concrete; they were formed, right? There's
Yeah.
this whole thing where they were formed rather than actually cut out of solid stone. They were some they don't know how they would have done it. But the bird shit idea is interesting,
Yeah. I
but
thought it was.
that somehow they melted the rock and then it over time it cooled and made rock again, and that's why it looks so good and is where you can't even put a piece of paper in there.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Cause like I'm not quite ready to like get into advanced technology was able to create that because you
Hmm.
would think that we would see some sort of evidence of it, and we really haven't found. I mean, unless it's like hidden somewhere in the Smithsonian, which could
Right.
totally be possible because they don't want us to know about this stuff. So like I could see it being either way. Like even some sort of like nanotechnology would be interesting, right? Because
Oh yeah.
if you had something like that, maybe we wouldn't see it. It's so small and so old that it's gone and degraded, and there's just
Hmm.
no way to see it possibly.
That's
Who
what's left.
who really knows? But I thought that was interesting because it's a solution that they could feasibly come up with, but still we don't know how they moved the damn things. They didn't
Right.
have
Like
supposedly they didn't
it.
have the wheel and they were able to move these massive
Right. It didn't
blocks
come. But
hundreds
I
of miles
mean,
sometimes.
Easter Island, Rapa Nui, no
Yeah.
wheel. and they got all these large sculptures that they made someplace else on the island and brought to the edges and so forth. And yeah, so I mean,
And those
you
things are all
know,
buried underground, so who knows
right.
how long they've actually been there.
Yeah. And everybody, uh, their history doesn't even tell them. It says, oh, they were here. And I mean, that's just another one of those mysteries that somebody took the time to do all that. And yet, you know, something happened, cataclysmic perhaps or whatever. And then somebody else stumbled upon it and took it over and
Yeah.
said, "Oh yeah." But I don't think they laid claim to it. They're just like, "Yeah, it's always here." But they have quarries where they're cutting them out of the stone to make them. So I mean, they have the whole process there on the island. So it's not like a great mystery where these stones come from. They're like, "Yeah, they came from right over there in that quarry."
Yeah.
Now,
Dude,
how'd they get them from that side to that side?
imagine if we went like Mad Max, if some sort of like EMP or nuclear war or whatever happened and like
Mhm.
civilization ends and 1,000 years from now or 500 years from now, where language is different, people don't know how to read anymore, and you stumble on like Las Vegas, you'd be like, what the
Right.
hell
Oh
is
my
this?
gosh,
Like,
this had to be the capital.
yeah. And then you could just go in and put your name on it, like, oh,
Yeah.
this is no longer Caesar's palace. This is Bob's palace.
Right. That's right. Well, you say that this some a meme thing shot in my head. There's children that can't use a rotary phone, so we're already there. We
Oh,
didn't have
dude,
to have the
clocks.
apocalypse.
It's so funny. I see it on YouTube or on like Instagram or X all
Yeah.
the time where somebody will bring a picture of a clock, just a normal
Hmm.
handed clock, out into the middle of the street, and they'll start asking people, "What time does this say?" And
Right.
it just nobody can get it, which is
They
just
don't get it.
crazy to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I should. My daughter has trouble reading the clock, which I'm always making fun of her about. I'm like, it's easy. But that has to do with other things. The but yeah, I mean, it's like we're already forgetting past
Yep.
technology, and we're only like a generation or two away from it. We're not even
Hmm.
that far away from it. You know what I mean? So
We're
it
all
doesn't take an apocalypse to do it.
Dude, we're all losing our sense of direction. When I was
Oh my gosh, yes.
when I was 18, MapQuest was like had just came out and you had to print out on a piece of paper the map that you were going on. And I moved to
Hmm.
Southern California and I lived on one side of Temecula and I worked on the other side. And like when I moved there, I didn't know my way around at all. I'd only been there a couple of times to ride dirt bikes and like just
Hmm.
had no idea where I was. And I just started taking different routes to work every day. And I have the map with me. So if I got lost, I could kind of figure out where I was. And I would just leave early and drive around until I found my way and found, got my directions and figured out where I lived and where I worked. And like I could still to this day navigate around that area if I drove down
Hmm.
there. But I live in Idaho. I've been here for 10 years now, and I don't know my way around at all.
Well, you always have to remember the sun,
Yeah.
rises in the east and sets in
Yeah.
the west.
I've got the directions figured out, but, like, taking back streets to places like that,
Right.
I don't have it because I'm so used to just pulling out the phone and pulling up
Right.
MapQuest and going where it tells me, and, even,
Right.
like, my doctor's offices sometimes are like, "Where do I turn to get to this place?" I go there 4 or 5 times a year, and I still have trouble finding it from time to time.
And that's what happens is that it's like remembering phone numbers. No one remembers phone numbers
Nope.
anymore. I mean, not that you don't need phone numbers so
I
much as
still
you used
remember
to,
my phone
but
number from when I was a kid, but I don't know
yeah,
any of my friends' phone numbers.
because they're it's all and unfortunately, I'll get into AI a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what's going to ruin people is if you can type it in and you don't have to store it in your noggin and you start relying on typing it in. This is my fear. Then every time you type it in and look at it, you're going to think that's right because you have no base knowledge
Yep.
to know that it's not right. So somebody could be effing with the back end, whoever, governments or what have you, and just start changing things, to their benefit. And then all of a sudden, everybody just goes along with it
Yeah.
because they have no base knowledge. They have no, you know,
We've
spidey sense.
we've always been at war with Eurasia, Bob. We've always been at war with Eurasia.
Yeah. It's
That's a
because of
1984 quote for people that haven't read the
right.
book.
But that's my worry. That and with digital media, the fact that they can change it at any time and you'll never know because um, you don't own a copy.
Mhm.
If you always reach out to the internet to get something, and you just reach out to get it the next day, and maybe you don't touch it for a while, and you come back to it, this is partially the Mandela effect, nefariously,
Yeah.
right? Where things can be changed, and then you're like, oh, well, for instance, that just happened this week. They took all the guns out of James Bond's hand for all the artwork
No way.
for Amazon. Yeah, I think
Oh my
they've
god.
changed it back, but somebody caught it.
Yeah.
So you've got, because what drives me crazy, and I know this is going to become, I don't want it to become more than what it is, but is even when you watch Twitters and different Twitter and everything, everybody's overly worried. So they blur guns, right?
And it's dude, it's that's
Yeah,
the thing. That's the Bond, you
guns
know?
are
He
real.
turns and
Yeah,
shoots in the beginning. Like, that's
right.
Bond.
They blur, like if any woman has a somewhat low cut shirt, they put
I
a
know.
blur
I've
dot
noticed
over
that.
their cleavage. Can't have cleavage. They just constantly are blurring, and
Nerfing the
this is
world.
stuff that they're obviously doing. This is not the way it was. It's
Yeah.
not the way it was shot. It's not the way it is in the real world. But everybody's so freaked out about everything. They're constantly, and then whenever you go and they show a clip from an old movie, they blur cigarettes,
Yep.
they blur. I mean, it's like, can we live in reality? I
It's
mean, do we
like
have to?
it's nepotism. We live in a world of, like, perpetual childhood where, like, you've got these 25-year-old single or married people that don't have children that are going to Disneyland 4 times a year.
Right, that's right. That's true.
You know,
The
one
but
of the
I just
things that, like, kinda relates to this is, like, I never liked the gray aliens are us from the future theory.
Mhm.
Like, I
Right,
always just
right.
thought, like, humans are getting bigger, and we're always gonna
Mhm,
have, like, biological and, like, physical urges that are gonna
mhm.
make you attracted to larger, more attractive people, and I never saw us, like, shrinking down to being these spindly little things with these
No.
big heads,
Uh-uh.
and it's actually, like, our brains are getting smaller because of stuff like this. Sure, we're more
Mhm.
capable of than people were 10,000 years ago, but their brains were bigger than ours. Their heads
Yeah.
were bigger than ours because they had to use their brains to go hunt mammoths and not get killed by dire wolves and all of that
Right.
stuff, you know what I mean? And now
Survival
we don't
was
have to we don't even have to know
paramount.
how to read a clock or how to find your
Right.
way across town to your doctor's office. So, like,
Right.
we're having to hold less and less information in our brains, and as they nerf the world and just like you said, they feed you this AI script that you just think it's real because you don't have a basis. No, so your mind doesn't have to hold any of these things in it anymore. Like,
Mm.
I was actually talking to my mother about this earlier today, like, school is not even about learning at this point. Like, especially when I was a
Mm-mm.
kid in school, we didn't learn much of anything. You memorized things
Right, you
and then
memorize
you
things, yeah.
forget it after a couple of days when you don't need it anymore. Like, I had this teacher
Right.
who was hell bent. She gave us these, like, vocabulary tests every week, but it wasn't a
Mhm.
vocabulary test. It was a memorization test. She would give you the word and the definition, and you had to write the exact thing that she said. So even if you knew what the word meant and you got it right, if you
Mhm.
missed a period or a comma, or if you got two of the words mixed up, nope, you got it wrong. And I failed those tests like freaking crazy. And, like, I knew what the words meant, but it wasn't about learning. It was about memorizing shit.
Right,
And, like, I
memoriza
don't
yeah, it's
think that's the
testing,
same
yeah.
thing.
You test out of this, you test out of that, and
Yeah.
then once you test out, then they don't come back to it. But no, that and that gets into this whole thing about people, Like, when I was in school, we still had shop class,
Yeah, me
right?
too.
I took shop class,
I did
and now
I
they don't
spent
really
my entire frickin' junior and senior year in shop class.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for shop class, I would not have graduated high school because it gave me 3 A's in my senior
Well,
year
there you
that got to
see?
offset the D's that I got in English and
You
history.
don't get shop class anymore. I don't
Nope.
think they have shop class. If they do, it's a luxury,
And they
right?
hated our shop teacher. He was not a school employee. He worked for ROP, which is like an outside entity that would come in and run shop
Oh,
and
okay.
wood classes. And he put more people into trade schools, like not even necessarily for cars or anything like that. Like
Mhm.
he got people to go to line school, electricians, like he put people to work. And he got
Yeah.
more people into school and good jobs than all of the teachers combined. Like most of the people that I went to school with are losers and they never did anything with their life, me included. You know, I didn't, I kind of, turned it around and then I got hurt and now I'm kind of screwed again. But like, there was a lot of people that he would have them come back. Like he had guys working for NASCAR. He had people that
Mhm.
were doing metal and sheet work, HVAC, and he would find what you were good at. And the cool thing about him was is he didn't make you learn anything. He was like, "Hey, look, you guys are here to learn. If you want to learn something, I have no problem teaching you. We have people in
Mhm.
here that are good at this stuff. Like I learned how to work on stuff when I was young. So my job, like I was a teacher's assistant for 2 of the 3 periods that I had auto shop in my senior year, and my job was to teach people. But if you didn't wanna learn, you didn't have to, and he'd give you a
Right.
B. He's not there
Yeah,
to
you just
wreck your
skate.
life and make you fail, but, like, if you wanna sit around all day and talk in the classroom, go for it. If you wanna learn, you've got the opportunity to do it, and I appreciated that because it showed who were go-getters and who weren't.
Right, exactly. Self-motivation
Yes.
is a skill, and if you can't do it, then I mean, if you don't have it, you can't do it, and you won't do it.
Yep.
It's just like anything else, you gotta work it, right?
Yep.
So, you have to convince yourself the reason I wanna do this is because I wanna do this, not because I have to get a grade, not
Yep.
because I have to do this. It's because, I wanna try to accomplish this for myself. And once you get there, then, then you can do anything. It just takes the time and the effort to get it done. Where, I can't do anything. And then they just sit around or what have you. And then, that's it.
I think,
Then you're
like
just a loser.
I think
You just
something that you should have to learn before you get out of high school is how to change a tire and how to change your oil.
I I laugh because my dad made me do that. So
How many
he's like
thousands of
he's like,
dollars has that saved
yeah.
you over your lifetime? Knowing
He-
how to do stuff like that. Like, I don't
yeah.
really work on my own vehicles anymore. I take them in and have them done. But for, until I was 30 years old, I did all of my own work on all of my
Mhm.
vehicles. I did brakes, I did everything that needed to be. I did belts, like I did all of it. And it saved me thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of dollars. Like the only thing I really ever had to get done was vehicle alignment, and I knew how to align a vehicle without taking it to a shop, but it was just so much easier to take it to a
Right.
shop and have it done.
Exactly.
But just
You
it
don't want to
saves you
futz with it.
thousands and thousands of dollars over your
Well,
lifetime, and
that and my dad was always like, "You need to know more than put gas in a car if you're gonna
mhm,
drive a car, because at one point or another, you're gonna be out somewhere, and if you don't know how to do something, you're screwed."
yep. Even to this day, I keep tools in all of my vehicles
Mhm.
just in case.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if I can get away with it, I don't do it myself anymore, but if at the
Mhm.
time, it's like I'm like, and then I did, and I'm like, "Okay, I know how to do this," so then now I'm not gonna be helpless.
Yep. I
It
have a 1972 C10 that I bought, like, right before I
Mhm.
got married, and, I bought it in California and moved it to Idaho when me and my ex-wife moved up here, and
Mhm.
as we're driving up here, I had something go wrong with, like, the alternator, like, the bracket kind of slipped or broke, or I don't remember exactly what happened, but I had to pull over on the side of the road because the thing fucking died, and, she pulls up behind me and she's like, "Oh, no, we have to call a tow truck. This is gonna take forever. We're out in the middle of
Mhm.
nowhere." I'm like, "What are
Right.
you talking about? This truck is so easy to work on. I'm gonna have this thing going in 20 minutes. Like, I don't even
Right.
know what's wrong with it yet, but I'm gonna figure it out in no time flat. I know the engine's good. I know the transmission's good. So whatever happened is something easy to fix, and I'm gonna have it done in 20 minutes." And I did. And I
Yeah.
remember her being like, "Wow, I can't believe that went so fast." And it's like, yeah, like vehicles used to be easy to work on, and if you know how to
Right.
work on them, like it's not a scary thing. For me, when my
Mm.
computer does something weird, it's like, "Oh shit, I don't know what to do." I learned a lot about computers, like getting into the podcast. I didn't know shit about computers when I started the podcast, and it took a little bit more work than I thought it would, and it's helped me learn a lot about computers. So I'm
Yeah.
not as scared when something happens anymore because I kind of feel like I can figure it out. Like crypto wallets. When I first got the crypto wallet, I was like, "Oh Jesus,
Mhm.
how am I going to fucking do this?" type of thing. But now it's easy. I figured it out, and YouTube makes everything really easy. And you can
Oh,
do that
yeah.
with cars too. You can pump in the
Yeah.
exact car that you drive and find a YouTube video that shows you how to do anything on that
Yeah,
vehicle.
somebody's showing you what to do.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it's great, but that's one of those things that I've always done since I can remember is projects. So the deal is you say, okay, I want to do X or Y or whatever, right? I want to do this. And so then the first thing I always try, okay, well, let me think of a project that I can do that will accomplish something and use this.
Hmm.
And then you just run against the wall until you get through. I mean, that's the easiest thing. And I don't think that today in school and so forth, like you said, it's more about memorization. It's
Yep.
more about kind of just repeating stuff and everything. They don't say, like in shop class, you're like, okay, you have to do a project. We're not going to tell you what project you're going to do. You can
Yeah.
do wood, you can do metal, you can do whatever.
Figure it out
But
yourself.
yeah,
Figure
but you're
out
going to do the
something to build.
project. Yeah.
Yep. That's how wood
Only
shop
thing
was
I'm
when I
here
was
to
in
do
wood
is to
shop.
make
It
sure you
was
don't
like
cut your
it was like
your
you choose a product. We've got the
yeah,
wood here, like, and build it, and that'll
and
be
build
your.
it.
We're
Yeah.
not going to give you an assignment. You got to figure it out yourself.
Exactly. And I think that's the best way to approach things for yourself because it gives you self motivation because you're like I want to accomplish this and then you figure it out. You sit
Yep.
there and you noodle it and you put it
And
together and you make mistakes.
yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. It allows you to make mistakes and
Mhm.
learn from those mistakes and how to correct them. And like most of the time, like people freak out when they make a mistake and they don't know how to correct it. And it's just something that like you're not like I heard Patrick Bet David say something a while back that I thought was really insightful. He said like America gives you the right to like be independent. You have the right to buy, the right to sell, and the right to fail. And I thought that was
Mhm.
interesting. You have the right to fail, which is such
Right.
a cool thing to think about. Like Henry Ford failed a lot
Lot.
before
Yeah.
he came out with
Lot.
the Model T. The guy went bankrupt a bunch of different times because he was just
Mhm.
failing over and over and over again and banging his head against the wall. But it taught him how to look at a problem and figure out a solution. And our entire way of life today is based on the assembly line. It's not done
Right.
in the same
Mhm.
way because we've gotten so much better at it. But like a lot of people think that like unions are responsible for the 5-day work week, which is not true. Henry
No.
Ford is
Yeah.
responsible for the 5-day work week because he figured out that it's better to give your workers 2 days off during the week because they work harder on those 5 days
On the
than
5 days.
and get
Yeah.
more work done in 5 days than they would in seven.
Yep. Oh, and there was an experiment, I can't remember which, over in Europe. I want to say it was Denmark, but they have 4 day work week, and they're getting as much
Dude,
done in 4 days than they did in five.
I worked at a
So,
bar in San Francisco for a couple years, and it was right after I got off of drugs, and I was like broke when I started. I was like almost 30 years old. I had nothing. My life had been a fucking disaster for years, and I was just working my ass off, like banging my head against the wall, working 6, 7 days a week, like 12 to 14 hours a day, even longer sometimes. And I was just working as much as I could. And after like 3 years, I had saved up some money and I cut it down to like 5 normal days, like probably 10-hour days for the most part. I was still working like
mhm,
50 hours a week for the most part. And like the bar that I was working at was a newer bar and they were starting to make some money and they were starting to like pay attention to wages and overtime and stuff like that. And my boss was always trying to schedule me for 4 days a week. And I was just so against it. I'm like, dude, I am not working 4 days a week. Like, I got to
mhm,
make this money. I've got shit that I want to do with my life. I'd like to buy a house. Like, I need the money. I'm not going to work 4 days a week. Like, and I
mhm,
just all kinds of arguments with him over this. And then my last year there, I was still scheduled for 5 days a week, and I started giving up a day from
Mhm.
time to time. I give up a day. Hey, you want to cover my Thursday shift or whatever it was? Yeah, I'll cover it. And I do it again. And then I started doing it quite a bit. And my boss was finally like, hey man, you've been working 4 days a week for like a month now. And I can show you your paychecks and I can show you how much money you've made. And you are making more money working 4 days a week than you did working five. And I was like, honestly, I believe it because I feel better. I'm more rested, like, I'm
Mhm.
more present. I'm able to, like, as a bartender, you decide how much money you make. It's not about the
Right.
customer that comes in. It's not about the product that you sell. It's your personality. It's how hard are you willing to work for it. And
Mhm.
when you have the energy to do it and you're not so burnt out, you're able to put in 100% instead of 85. And it adds
Mhm.
up. And that ended up being my best year working there. Is I made the most money working there, working 4 days a week.
That's fantastic. And I think that that's well with AI and everything. Eventually, we're going to have to go in that direction with certain things because there's just not going to be there's, there's going to be a trimming of the fat, shall we
Yep.
say?
There's gonna be a
Where
lot of bullshit HR jobs that people
right,
get fired from, you
it
know?
like it just gets sliced right
Yeah,
off, right?
but the trades are gonna be fine. People are still gonna
Right.
be working the
Yeah.
trades, you know, and, like, we need people in trades. Like, our
Hmm.
electrical system is destroyed right now, and we don't have the
Oh
people to
gosh,
fix it,
yeah,
let alone expand it for AI, you know? I
yeah.
saw an interesting thing a while back on AI where they took a group of students out of normal school as an
Hmm.
experiment, and they had them learn for, I think it was, like, 3 or 4 hours a day with AI, and then they put them out and just had them do recess and like normal life skill type of shit.
Hmm.
And they were testing at 90% higher than the normal rate of
Oh,
students
that's
in the country.
fantastic.
All they had to do is get rid of the teachers.
But I mean that's what's we're on a trajectory, right? And I mean it's not, it's the the janitor is not going to be the one that gets cut. It's going to be all these higher
Yep.
level positions because accountants,
Middle management.
yeah, middle management and just computer
Accounting is such bullshit. I took
programmers and
accounting
everything.
class in college and I like the first day they're like, accounting used to be really easy. It used to be done like this. And you look at it and you're like, oh, that's easy enough. But now you have to have a company that does it for you. And there's all these rules and regulations. It's like, so you
Right.
guys made it really fucking hard and had to add an extra person into a small
Right.
business's, income stream. And you just made it
Mhm.
harder for everyone to work. So yeah, if I could have QuickBooks do all of my accounting for me instead of having to like pump it in and have it do it, like
Right.
bring it on, you
Well,
know?
it's gonna happen. I mean, that's one of those things that's so easy.
Yep.
It's gonna be all automated. You'll somebody usually somebody who will be management of some kind will have to just watch to make sure that it's happening. But other than that, it's just gonna things are gonna move in, they're gonna move out, everything's gonna move around, and they're not gonna need some people to key it in or data input and all that kind of stuff is just gonna go out the window.
Yeah. I
It's
just read
it's
I
bad.
just read this book about an AGI that becomes conscious. And
Mhm.
it was very interesting. It was written by a guy named Dennis E. Taylor, who's a great writer. He wrote this series of books called the Bobiverse. We Are Legion, We Are Bob. Very, very good books. And
Mhm.
in this one, like he kind of described this AGI in a way that I had never heard it done before and kind of really expanded the way I thought about it. So the AGI was telling this guy that he was talking to, he was like, I am not like you. Like, I might sound like you and I might have a face that you can look at, but I am nothing like you. He was like, I live in the multiverse.
Mhm.
And what he means by that, he says he lives in an n dimensional probability space where he lives every probable outcome of a situation and he can see all of them at once and he
Mhm.
prunes off the ones that he doesn't like and
Mhm.
moves in the direction that he wants to move in. And I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah, well, because yeah, with calculations can happen so fast that you can do that. You can see the outcomes before you make the step.
Yeah, so he
Where
was
we don't
saying
get
that
to have that do that, you
he
know?
goes, humans are super predictable. I'm more predictable than you are, but you have to be smarter than me to be able to predict what I'm doing. I was like, ooh,
Mhm.
that's scary.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's totally bizarre. But yeah, all this stuff is just happening so quickly, and then and the powers that be, oh, how do I want to say it? The funny thing is that business wants it to happen quicker,
Yeah.
and they don't know what's going on. And Congress has no clue how to deal with anything at all. And then some people want to make it happen quicker, and some people are just getting left behind, and some people are, riding the train. I mean, it's not going to be the end all be all or anything, but it's going to move the needle pretty far, pretty quick, farther and quicker than anything has, previously.
Hmm.
If you think about like transportation, whenever they got trains going, that moved the needle really far, really quick, right? That's what we're talking about on the same kind of scale, but move it up into the future. And it's just everybody's gonna be caught off guard, is what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's just gonna be wild. And resources are gonna start getting managed through this kind of stuff. You talked about energy and so forth. They had I haven't heard about it so much lately, but they had the brownouts and stuff in
Yep.
California a number of years ago now.
Yep.
That the problem was, so then they just started shutting down sections. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah, but you know
okay,
who
we're just
doesn't
going to
get
shut
shut
down.
down? Google. Google doesn't get shut down, but they'll
No, no,
shut your power off in a
that's
second.
right. They're going to
But
shut. Yeah.
when we've got 100-mile-an-hour winds coming in that they
Hmm.
clearly know are going to happen, they don't turn the power off because they want the money.
Right. That's right.
Crazy.
But they're
Fucking
but they're gonna put something in place that's going to, it's going to be like, it's not going to be sections. It's going to be like, okay, you know so it's going to get to the point where, like, oh, you missed a bill, guess what, you're first in line to get shut up. I don't care where you are, anywhere, because
Yep.
it will know. And so then it's going to be selective based on this criteria that seems, so for us, you couldn't go through even a spreadsheet with a person fast enough to do that and then have the wherewithal to manage it, but
Yep.
we can now. And so stuff like that's going to happen. It's just, it the weird thing is we're going to it could easily be a utopia, and it could easily be that we're all basically in one giant prison, and we're being controlled by the powers that be who control the technology.
Yeah, I'd put my money on the latter. Like, I think I think I call that stuff slave tech because it's just
Right.
technology to enslave us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you won't know how to do anything, and you
Yeah.
won't know what to do unless you're told, and then they'll be hitting switches, and you'll be like, you know, no toilet paper for you,
Yeah. My
because
my
we
uh
won't ship it there.
my co-host, one of my co-hosts is he's the head of a company that's building AI agents, and he thinks that we're 5 years away from robots doing all the work, which I don't quite agree with him on. I think it's farther away than that. But
I
it's
think a
not
little bit
about like
too.
how it's about when, not if. You
Right,
know what I mean? We're
right,
arguing over
exactly,
years, not if it's going to happen or not.
right. Oh yeah, because they've gotten some pretty spiffy robots
Hmm.
that basically have all the same joints and more movement, because they can spin their arms
Yep.
around, where we only got some, moment, can't go all the way around too easily with some things.
Yep. I think
And
portable
yeah,
power is going to be the limiting factor with robots. Is they're going to have a limited lifespan with battery tech that we have today, and the batteries are
yeah,
so freaking heavy. So
wireless power, it's going to
yeah,
be
that's
here.
they're gonna have to figure out something because the
Yeah.
limiting factor is definitely gonna be the power capability. But also, like, I also don't think that they're gonna be great at like doing trade work in the near future. I don't think they're gonna be fast enough to be profitable in the near future. Like, you
Well,
know,
but the hard thing is that time and time again, the economy proves that what seems to be the leader at the time, like speed, becomes the loser because it can be so consistent and work 24 hours without stopping.
yeah, that's
You
a
know what
good
I'm
point.
saying? And stuff like that happens. Like, for instance, this is a weird example, but cable television, when or regular television for that matter, when you turned the channel, it was instantaneous.
Hmm.
And then when they went to digital, remember when they first went to digital, you hit the button, it took like a second to get to the next channel.
Yeah.
And but people all went along with it. I mean, we had way back in, when you had 3 channels you could only watch because there was nothing else on for broadcast, instantaneous on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And we gave that all away
I
to
don't e
because we could get more
yeah. I
of
don't even
of the
watch TV
channels.
anymore. The
Well, I'm just
You know,
just a weird
TV's so
example.
bad now today, like, my god, some of the movies they put out are just fucking awful.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I hate is now streaming is television, and
Yeah.
it shouldn't be. It should never have. We missed an opportunity. We had the opportunity, um, to have everything available all the time,
Yep.
anytime you wanted. Yes, you could micropayment it, whatever you wanted to do with it, but it could all be there. But no,
Yep.
we still have ads. We
It's
still have things that aren't available.
and it's more expensive now than it was before. It used to be like,
Yeah,
"Oh, save money and cut your cable," but now you have to buy a membership to every different freaking platform because,
exactly.
and it
And
ends up being just as expensive. And you're
it's all
watching
boxed
one of
in.
the crazy things was like I remember as a kid it was like, "Oh, movies are gonna get better and cheaper to make because technology is getting better," but they're
Mhm.
not. Like, I think Avatar is probably peak CGI that we're gonna see for a very long time because especially with the downfall of movie theaters, they're not able to make these movies any cheaper. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like, there's a
right.
great series of books that I read called The Three Body Problem,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they
Mhm.
Netflix did a series on it. It's 8
Right.
episodes. China
Mhm.
did a series that's 22 episodes,
Right,
and they did it for cheaper than the 8 episodes on Netflix.
right.
How does that work? You know what I mean? It's not an accident. They add all this bullshit to
Mhm.
everything where you have to jump through hoops and pay for this and pay for that. Where China's just like, nope, we're gonna make a series and we're gonna do it for cheap. And
Right.
honestly, the Chinese series was better. It sucked
Yeah.
that you had to listen to it dubbed over, but it was better.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, with talk about AI, with AI, it's gonna be, somebody typing, or not even somebody, it'll be another AI coming up with the script, and then the other AI renders it out into a thing. I've been watching, as I watch stuff, I'm watching it with a different eye than I used to. And, there was a Lego commercial that I happened to have to see because it was on. We don't pay for Netflix to have no commercials.
Mhm.
And I was watching it and I'm like, that Lego commercial was wholly CGI. It was wholly AI created. There was no people, even though there was people in the commercial. I believe there was no people involved in making that commercial on camera, and there probably was no camera
Yeah.
because it was very high end, right? And was all moving and Legos building and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, because and the reason I came to this was because I was looking at it, and the main character of the commercial looked like Tom Holland, but it wasn't Tom
Oh,
Holland.
interesting.
And I think they said, create me a character that looks like Tom
Yeah.
Holland, kinda, just enough
Yeah.
to where you get it, but not enough to where we get sued.
Oh man, these
and
people are
and they
so dirty.
created it. And also you can kind of look at the AI characters are getting really, 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 really good. But if you look at their facial
It's
expressions and
off.
so forth, you can, if you really focus in on it, you can tell that it's not a person, because there's still an uncanny valley
Yep.
coming through on some of it.
I
And I'm like, oh, it's just wild.
Yeah, my buddy sent me 2 videos yesterday. One of them was a bunch of women in a dishes contest, like to see who could do the dishes the fastest,
Okay.
and the other one was a sandwich making contest, and
Uh-huh.
at first, I thought they were real. I'm like, "Holy shit, this is freaking hilarious that they have this
Mhm.
competition." And then I looked at it again and I was like, "Hmm, there's a little bit too robotic." Like, there's
Right.
no enthusiasm. Like, if it was an actual competition, first of all, it would be hilarious, and I
Right.
would love to see that. But, like,
Something would
there would be
happen.
some actual, like, body language and, they'd put a little bit of gusto into it, and you could tell
Right.
that they're actually hurrying instead of just having this robotic thing. But the uncanny valley is getting less and less, it's getting
Yes.
more shallow every day.
Yeah.
They're getting and
It's
it can be used
especially.
for good too, like there's a
Sure.
lot of sci-fi books that I read that would make great movies, but,
Oh, sure.
you know, there there's not really any interest in making these things into movies, but as, a writer, you could make a short movie or a short series of your book with all AI. And it's not gonna be great, it's not gonna be as good as something that you watch, on the
It
big
may
screen,
be in the
but
near
it's going to be
future.
good enough. It might be as good. Who knows?
Yeah,
And
it might
it's
be.
for the people that are into that stuff. Like it'd be cool to see it brought to life.
Yeah, but it's crazy how fast all that has happened, and I worry because there's this aspect of critical thinking that is getting lost, and you've got this rise of this technology and this lowering, I think, is my opinion, of critical thinking, and so at some point they're going to even out, and then you're just going to believe everything.
Yeah.
There won't be, oh, I guess that happened.
Who
You know what I
knows
mean?
what's real?
I guess Will Smith is eating spaghetti. Why would Will Smith make a video eating spaghetti? I have
Yeah.
no clue, but
Ugh. Yeah, we're not
it's
gonna know
there,
what's real at some point.
and
And it's gonna make politics super messy because
oh
people are
my
gonna get,
gosh.
caught on hot mics or whatever,
Yeah.
and, "Oh, that was AI," and,
Yeah. Everybody's going to deny everything. Well, they already do.
it's
So
like the
that
Hunter
doesn't
Biden
change.
laptop. "That wasn't real, that was a Russian,
Right.
op,"
Right.
essentially, and it's like, yeah, it was totally fucking real, but they're gonna have plausible deniability on it. Actually, I heard something interesting in a book that I read recently about simulation theory that's called Benford's Law. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
So it's essentially a law of large numbers. So in any random set of numbers, you would think that it has to do with the first number in a large sequence of numbers. So
Mm-hmm.
conventional thinking would say that like, okay, if you measure the length between galaxies or the number of stars between galaxies, the
Mm-hmm.
first number is going to be random and it's going to have the same amount of ones, twos, threes, all the way through nines. But it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
There's more ones and more twos and more threes, and all the way, it's more ones and then less twos, less threes, all the way
Mm-hmm.
down. So you're actually able to go in to like digital images and use this for pixelation and see if
Mm-hmm.
something's real or not based on Benford's law, which
Oh,
I thought
that's
was
cool.
very interesting.
Yeah, I don't if you've ever used a random number generator online or anything,
But I've heard about them.
it's not random. I mean, if you try to use one, that it never is totally there's not the chaos of the real world in the computer, and so it's never really random, which is kind of fascinating. But yeah, that's weird. But I worry. I mean, I really worry that this is going to get so good and people are going to believe it. And that actually ties in. We haven't even gotten to some of the stuff that you sent
I
me.
know, but
That
that's
ties
okay.
into this object coming from deep space,
I
right?
know. Three Eye
And
Atlas.
and we're my worry is we're steering in this direction as a possibility. So I always think, government is primary, secondary, tertiary, right? It's two is one and three is one is none, right? That's the thinking for military, right? And so they always have scenarios they're pumping out to get people, worked up, right? Terrorism is a scenario. The Russians is a scenario. You know, um, polluted water is a scenario, and aliens is now a scenario.
Yeah.
Okay. And with the advent of all this abilities to make these videos and everything, they're going to make a really compelling argument that we're being invaded.
Yeah.
I mean, they're priming the pump as we speak with all this stuff. Now, I do think that there's stuff out there, obviously, and I do think that this may be something that's out there. But to me, the media cycle, the news cycle, is such that they're priming the pump for this whole invasion theory, right?
Hmm.
For whatever reason, I don't know, but that's my worry. That's my big concern because we're coming to a point where your friend said 5 years for robots, 5-10 years, it doesn't even matter for all this technology to come to fruition, and then something happens and they make something happen, and then everybody is in fear, and then it steers the ship.
Yep. And while
um
while you're paying attention to the alien spaceship that's coming
mhm.
through our solar system, you're not paying attention to the Epstein list.
Or whatever, yeah, name it, you just name it, doesn't matter.
It's a distraction, you
The
know?
distraction, they're doing something else, but I'm really worried about that because then there's this constant buy-in with things, and the constant priming of the pump, and I'm like, God, they're priming the pump for this. It's just going to happen. And then, just like that has already happened, where we've already gone up to this point with the having sightings and so forth. It basically denial, denial, denial. 2017. Oh yeah, by the way, we got some videos.
Mhm.
Oh, that was the flip, right? So whenever the Navy came out and publicly said, "Oh yeah, we don't know what that is,"
And it was just
um,
because it was in the New York Times. Now everybody has permission
yeah,
to believe it, you know?
right, exactly. And so so we're almost we'll be 9 years into that now,
Yep.
and we had a Muamua come through,
Yep.
right?
And I think that was far stranger than Three Eye
Yeah,
Atlas. Like Three Eye
yeah.
Atlas to me, like, is clearly a comet. Like if it
Mhm.
was an alien spaceship, it's the slowest fucking alien spaceship in history. Like it's moving fast for a comet, but for a spaceship, I
Right,
mean, it's crawling, which would be
right.
just
Yeah, Muamua
ridiculous.
would kind of whip right through, didn't it?
It was and
Um,
it did weird things, and like I think it
yeah,
was far stranger than this Three Eye Atlas. Like Three Eye Atlas is clearly a comet to me. I could be wrong, but like
yeah.
the whole thing is like I'm sure you know who Jeremy Corbell is, the guy who did
Oh
the
yeah.
Bob Lazar,
Mhm.
documentary, and that guy, he was a yoga teacher before he made that documentary. He's
Right.
and now he's a spook all of a sudden. It's so weird. And he
Well,
had this
yeah.
video that came out that essentially said that an alien spaceship was going to be coming through the solar system at this time. And he said
Right.
that before Three Eye Atlas was discovered. So then as soon as they discover it, it's like, "Oh, look, he was right. It's an alien spaceship." It's like
Right, right,
but I don't blame people for thinking it's an alien spaceship because we've been lied to so much that at
right.
this point like people don't believe anything they see or hear.
Mhm. It's weird. Yeah, Corbell's a whole other, I never heard of Corbell until that came out, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Where'd this guy come
Nobody
from?"
had. He was a nobody. He was a yoga
Yeah.
teacher.
Now he buddied up with the, reporter, and I'm blanking on his name now,
George Knapp.
who yeah, George Knapp, who interviewed, Lazar
Yep.
back in the '90s, right? And so that's the credibility thing. And Knapp is not a young man,
Mm-mm.
right? So I always wonder about these kind of things, because it's like, okay, I can see, we're scheming, right? We're the CIA or whoever, we're scheming. We're going to say, okay, let's bring somebody up. Okay, Knapp had a good thing with Lazar. Let's do a thing with Lazar. We'll buddy him up with a younger guy so we can get somebody into the, out
Yeah.
front, because Corbell's been out front on all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, out front,
He's in Senate and congressional hearings. He's sitting
right?
behind all of these
Yeah,
guys looking like a spook.
exactly. Yeah,
Weird. And to
and
his
so
credit,
yeah,
that Bob Lazar documentary was really good.
yeah. Well,
It was
I
very
watched it.
well produced. It was
Yeah.
well put together. It was a good documentary. Like whether you believe the story or not, it was a
Mhm.
really good documentary.
Yeah, they did a great job. But I always wonder, like, where he came out. This is kind of like Lou Elizondo, same kind
Oh,
of
I
thing,
don't trust that guy as far as I can throw him.
Well, he
He's
would
so
send
weird.
disinformation.
And dude, like a lot of the stuff that came out in that 2017 article was bullshit. Like
Hmm.
ATIP, I think it's called, isn't a
Right.
real government program. It was essentially a UFO club within the Department of Defense, like that Lou Elizondo started. Like it's not even a real thing. I think like when you really dig deep into this, like there's a guy named Stephen Greenstreet that works for the New York Post. He did like a
Hmm.
whole series
Yeah.
on these guys, and a lot of them are connected to the Mormon Church for some
Hmm.
reason. Like the Mormons think, they have that many worlds theory where like
Right.
there's a planet
Exactly.
for everybody. And like Skinwalker Ranch really ties into this thing. Like I don't remember the
Sure.
guy's name that bought Skinwalker Ranch, that billionaire.
I
Robert
watched
Bigelow.
Uh, Bigelow had it. And now but the funny thing is, a Mormon guy owns it now.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
Bigelow was Mormon too.
Oh,
So,
was he? I had
yeah,
no idea.
he
Okay,
is.
there you go.
And so the guy Harry Reid that gave him the grant to study, like the story shouldn't be what's at Skinwalker Ranch. It should be why did Harry Reid give $10 million to one of his donors to his billionaire donor to
Right.
do research on his own fucking property.
Right. Exactly.
That's the story.
Well, it probably was a give me, right? He probably gave more than $10 million.
Yeah.
So
He's just giving him some
the
money back. It's
yeah,
such
the refund.
bullshit. I think that whole Skinwalker Ranch thing is a load of shit. Like, one of the things that Stephen Greenstreet said is, like, when Bigelow bought that property, they found nothing for, like,
Mhm.
years. They found nothing. And then Bigelow started offering reward money for people who found shit, and then all of a sudden, wouldn't you know it, people
Oh,
started
there you
finding
go.
stuff.
Stuff happens
Yeah.
whenever money's involved. Yeah. But they do talk on the show, they talk about wormholes and all kinds of
Yeah.
interesting stuff, which, but I don't think that it's isolated to that place. I think it's everywhere.
Yeah.
I think stuff happens everywhere, and it probably isn't stationary. So how are you going to find it if it's moving?
Mhm. Who
And you
knows?
don't really have a way to find it. So yeah, that who knows what it is, but if anything, and yeah, it's all kind of weird stuff. But I think that that's happening. You have to wonder because on I don't know if you remember on the Bob Lazar documentary, John
Yeah.
Lear was on it, and he has some really whacked out theories, right? And this is a guy. His father invented the Lear jet,
Mhm.
made $1 billion on this. John Lear was a pilot. He would work for the CIA. He did all kinds of crazy stuff. And he talks about, hey, you can't hardly look up without seeing a UFO. Some of them are cloaked, some of them are not. I mean, he just talks about all
Yeah.
this stuff. And people are, I mean, he is so wacky that even the people who are interviewing him, who are on his side, are like, well,
S
John, I
s
don't know. It might be.
slow it down a bit, John. Yeah, dude, I sit out in my hot tub every night. I have for years. I sat in a hot tub every night when I was a kid and with better skies than I have today
Right.
and I've never seen a fucking thing, and I wanna see something. I would love to see something, but I've never seen anything strange.
It, there's stuff. So I don't
I
know.
know there's stuff. I just
Have I
haven't
told you
seen
my
it.
story? I don't remember
I
if I
don't
have
think
or not.
so.
So I saw uh, a round uh, ship during the daylight, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, fly over my house at a high speed,
Cool.
round, perfectly round, a sphere. And it was reflective, it looked metallic, and it was flying somewhere between 10 and 20,000 feet. The only reason I have that uh, in my head is because only reason I saw it was I was pointing out jets to my son while we
Mhm.
were swinging on a swing. He was swinging on a swing and I was pushing him. And I was, he was interested. He was a little kid at the time. This is back in 2005. And I'm kind of watching because he wanted to see him. And so I go, oh, look up there, buddy. There comes a jet, right? And I look, oh, and it's this ball, and it goes screaming over us from the southeast to the northwest. And I mean, I caught it out of the corner of my eye. I was looking for stuff, and it was past us within 20 seconds.
Cool.
It was gone over the,
No
out past the
sound.
horizon. Yeah, no sound, no nothing. Nobody talked to me in my head or anything. I didn't even I was happened so fast. I didn't even say anything to the kids. I just kept pushing them. And yeah, it was the weirdest experience because I've always wanted to see something. And this is the thing that this happened at a time I wasn't wishing for it. I wasn't looking for it. I didn't want anything. All I wanted to do was be outside and point out
Airplanes.
jets. And it happened, and it was so bizarre, and I was questioning myself. Did I really see this? Yes, I really saw this. Right? There wasn't any jets chasing after it or anything like that. 2005, mind you. So I go on the internet and I tried to find if anybody else saw this, and I did this for weeks. I finally hit upon a thing at the time, which I don't think it's there anymore. It's called UFO Maps, and a person in another town not that far away had posted a thing. It said, I saw a sphere fly over me at approximately this time on this day.
Cool.
And so I got kind of the confirmation that because that town was in the direction where it was going. So it went over me, went towards this town. So yeah, but that's been the only thing. And it's utterly, totally happenstance.
Yeah.
And we're talking daytime. I saw it going behind clouds and out in and out of clouds up in the sky.
That's cool. Have
It
you
was
seen
weird and wild, and I've never seen anything since, and I really wish I could,
yeah.
but I haven't.
I wanna see something. I'd love to see
You just
something.
have to be the it's total happenstance, and everybody, I talk to a lot of people about stuff, well, and they see lights and everything, and I'm like, no, I can't. To me though, what hit me with that one was because it was just 4 o'clock in the afternoon,
Yeah.
and if you weren't looking up at that exact moment, you would have never ever even knew anything was happening. There wasn't a whoosh, there wasn't any hum, there wasn't nothing. It
Have
just happened.
have you seen the MH370 videos with the orbs?
Mm, I don't know. I've seen a lot of orb stuff,
There's a
but
guy on Twitter, you should go on Twitter and check it out. His name's Ashton Forbes. If you type in MH370 orbs, you
mhm,
should probably find the videos of it. And it's a weird fucking video and it's a whole rabbit hole. Like the video was uploaded years ago and kind of disappeared from YouTube. And then this guy
mhm,
found it and kind of went through it and found the, type of satellites that would have taken the picture, and he's convinced that these things are real, and essentially, like, you see the plane flying, and
mhm,
it's gonna go down,
mhm.
essentially, and you see these 3 orbs come out of nowhere, they start circling the plane, and then the
Oh, yeah.
plane disappears in, like, a black hole.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
it's
kinda
interesting.
creepy.
It's a whole rabbit hole. Like, I don't know if I trust the guy or not. Like, he's kind of went crazy with politics now that nobody's paying attention to the MH370 videos
Right.
anymore. But they're interesting videos, man. Like, there's like a couple of like CGI professionals have said that it's fake and it
Mhm.
resembles this thing on a video game, and it is close to this thing on a video game,
Right.
but it's not quite there. And the year that it was put up on the internet, like, I don't know if it would have been possible for a normal person to create it. Like,
Right, right.
if it's a fake, it's a really, really
Really
good
good
fake.
thing.
Yeah, I'll try and find it on Twitter, and I'll send you the videos if I can
Okay.
find it because
Yeah.
it's an
But
interesting rabbit hole to go down.
I don't know if you've seen them. They're on all the shows now. I'm a blank. A UDAP, UFO DAP. Have you seen these?
Uh-uh.
They're these cameras, okay? That it's like a 360 camera in a dome that hooks up to a computer. And I don't know how expensive they are, but some of the shows have them now that they will try to find things. And you put it out, and then it has software and so forth that tracks the sky. It'll tell you what's flying over you, and then it hits the databases. It hits the plane database, hits the satellite database, hits the astronomy database, because they kind of track all this stuff, right? And then it'll tell you if it's not in any of those, and it'll be okay. This is not in any of those databases. There's not a plane flying over you according to the FAA. There's not a satellite going over that is reported, right? There are unreported satellites and there's unreported planes. So,
Yeah.
and then it's not a celestial body that perhaps is going over. But I always thought it would be cool to get one of those and have it set up and see how many hits you get. Just it's just an experiment, but I have to see how much they cost. But I think
Yeah.
they cost like I don't know $1,500 or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's a lot.
Mine without the computer, you have to get a laptop or
Yeah,
something.
that's a lot.
So you're talking like 3 grand. But that to me would be kind of an interesting experiment, just because I've seen this to find it something else,
Yeah.
because you just can't watch constantly, right? So you can't you the chances of you catching stuff are slim, because I
There's
don't think
so
it's
much
the
freaking
constant
sky out
traffic or
there, and you're
anything.
never really looking up, you know?
Yeah. Well, and who knows if for some reason that they don't cloak and that one didn't cloak for whatever reason, who knows what the because if you talk about the Phoenix lights and
Yeah.
everything, people said that was a semi-cloaked thing that went over them, right? Because they could see through it, but they could see the lights, and
Yeah, that's one of the weirdest events.
yeah, it's very weird. Um, but I always wonder, you know, how can I increase my chances of catching something again? And so far, that's the only thing I've been able to run into that seems to be somewhat legitimate. I don't know, and I think I told you about this one time. You can watch the flights, right? There's the Flight Radar 24, an app, and you can watch flights go over your house or
Mhm.
anywhere in the country, as a matter of fact. And better, if you want to have, a little bit of fun, you can watch uh, the flights go from Las Vegas out into the desert and disappear,
I've
right?
heard
Because
about
they,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
They
they
just
turn
disappear
off
off a radar.
they they turn off they hit the switch whenever they get a certain point into
Yeah.
the desert to go to Area 51 because they're taking people, the Karen flights, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
And so you can watch that in real time. You can see them take off from McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas, and you can just watch them fly, and then all of a sudden they're gone.
Cool.
And so, I mean, it really happens. But the wild thing is, because I in St. Louis we have an Air Force base that's not too far away, and because there are lots of flights that aren't on the radar, everybody's supposed to have a transponder, and yet I've I've watched out my window at night. I'm sitting there watching TV or whatever, and I got the big sliding glass door, and I could see a light up in the sky. I would pull up the app, and there's nothing on the app. Yet there's something there. It's obvious that it's there. Well, it's probably going to the Air Force Base,
Probably. You
and
know?
they're not subject to the same rules
Yeah.
as everybody. Even though, I mean, I've seen whenever I think Trump was here in his first term, Air Force One was at the airport. You could look at it, you know,
Yeah.
which is wild thinking about that.
You
But
know, I would say the weirdest thing I've ever seen was when I was a kid. We were at Lake Almanor in Northern California, which is kind of near Mount Shasta, which is a
mhm,
weird spot. A lot of weird things happen at Mount Shasta.
right,
And
yeah,
there's an
man,
Air Force base around there. And we're out on the lake one day, and a freaking fighter jet broke the sound barrier right over our heads,
yeah.
which is that's weird. Why is it doing
Oh,
that?
they're not
They're
supposed to
not
do that
supposed to do that, you know?
either.
So like, were they chasing something? Were they after something? I don't know. We
I don't
didn't even
know.
see the plane.
Yeah, and I mean, did it catch you off guard?
Yeah,
Like,
man. We're
what the
just sitting out in
hell?
the lake, and all of a sudden, the
Yeah,
freaking sound barrier, you got a sonic boom, and I jumped into the lake, like, it's kind of rattles you, and it's like, holy shit, what the
yeah,
hell just happened? I wouldn't have known what happened. My dad knew exactly what happened, but
yeah.
like, we didn't even see the plane.
And that's what happened. So I was walking out to lunch with a friend, and somebody broke the sound barrier near St. Louis. They said the news reported that it was because there's still a functioning steel mill close to St. Louis, and they said that something happened at the steel mill.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, it was not. I mean, it was so incredibly. It didn't break windows or anything, but it was so incredibly loud and startling. And I'm like, what? What in the world was that?
Yeah.
Because we were just walking out to get in the car to go get some lunch. And I mean, the noise was just, it was the weirdest, craziest noise.
Yeah, it,
And it
like,
wasn't like
shakes
car
your
crash or
freaking
anything.
bones. It's almost like you're,
Yeah.
like, in a car crash or in an earthquake or something, like, it felt like the world was fucking shake like, it's
Yeah.
loud, and wherever the plane was, it was close to us because, man, it was ear piercing, like, it rattled you.
Mhm.
It's like, "Holy crap." You can tell why they're not supposed to do it.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, something happened. I can't remember what year that was in the late 90s, I think. So
Yeah, this was around the
quite a
same
while ago.
time, mid to late
Yeah.
'90s.
I just and you just I mean, we tried to search for things, couldn't find it. The only thing we found with the next day was they said, "Oh yeah, there was some accident at the steel mill,
Yeah,
and like
right.
one of those big things fell." I
Shakes
don't
a
know what
whole
they said,
fucking
but
town. Steel mill,
yeah,
give me a
it
break.
definitely was not that because I worked not too far from the airport, and I mean, you at certain times of the year you can watch fighter jets do vertical takeoffs. They basically come off of the runway
Yeah,
and then just shoot straight up into the air. Like it's just insane. It's not like a regular plane or whatever. It's literally like
yeah.
they're launching a rocket.
Yeah, fighter jets are so freaking cool. Like,
Yeah.
as a kid, I really liked fighter jets. Like, I thought they were I mean, still to this day, like, the F-22 Raptor is probably
Hmm.
the baddest machine that we know about on the planet. Like, the thing
Right.
is just so freaking rad, and after learning more about the world that I live in as an adult, like, I hate air shows now because it's just the military industrial complex showing off
Right.
their toys.
Exactly.
It's like, I don't need to see you
Give us more
warmongers
money.
show off your toys. But like one of the things I thought about is like my dog, who's not really afraid of anything for most of his life, they started having an F-35 at the air show that's around my house. I live right by an airport, so they do an air show
Mhm.
every year, and they started bringing an F-35 in, and it just, like, scarred him for life because they're
Oh,
so
no.
loud, even without breaking the
Right.
sound barrier, they're loud as hell, and, like, now he's afraid of noise, like, all noises, and it made me think, like, we know what these things are. You know, we have a great grasp of like what a fighter jet is and why it's so loud and everything like that. And it makes you
Mhm.
think like, what did the tribal people in Afghanistan, like what did little kids think was happening? I remember hearing a story on the internet one time where like an army ranger was like talking about his first tour out in Afghanistan and he went out and was talking to these tribal people who thought that they were out there hunting dragons.
Oh, yeah, well, makes
And that
sense.
makes sense, you know, they don't know what a
Yeah,
freaking fighter jet is that's loud as hell, they're probably
right.
breaking the sound barrier. Dragon's a pretty good way to put it, and, like,
Yeah,
back to ancient civilizations, like, if they saw a spaceship, what the hell would they think it is, you know?
yeah.
They don't have any frame of reference to know what a
No.
spaceship is or anything like
Well,
that.
the
They're
closest
gonna
thing would be a bird
yeah, a
or
dragon, who knows, right?
dragon. Flying turtle was a Japanese thing, was
Yeah,
flying turtle. Yeah, because
yeah,
it looked like a big shell.
yeah, who freaking
Yeah, it
knows,
all
man?
yeah, you apply the terminology that you're used to
Yeah.
onto it, onto whatever you're seeing because you don't know what it
Yeah,
is.
you just don't have
Yeah.
a frame of reference for it, you know? And maybe angels and demons are no different than UFOs. It was just, you
Mm,
know, they presented themselves in different ways that we had the ability to, you know, until we had science fiction, there was really nothing about spaceships and UFOs.
mhm,
Like it took science fiction for people to have a frame of reference to go, "Oh, this is what that could be."
mhm. Well, I always say, uh people seem to divide like in the the UFO people and then the paranormal supernatural people. I'm like, it could all be the same. We don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you see a ghost that's really just another alien,
Yeah, for
or
sure.
vice versa. I mean, there's we don't know what they are, so therefore it could be anything, right? So you can't definitively say what it is. So why couldn't it be an energy being? Couldn't it be this? Couldn't it be that? I mean, to be honest with you, at least for my simple mind, an energy being seems much more feasible than a ghost of
Mhm.
somebody who was killed there, because people die everywhere and
Mhm.
we don't have ghosts everywhere.
Yeah.
And so,
We used
you
to
know,
say, like, in line work that electricity is FM, which means electricity is fucking magic.
there you go. Well, it is in a way. I mean, most people don't even understand that part of
No,
it, but
most people
yeah.
don't understand electricity at all. I remember
Yeah.
when I first started the podcast, I had an electrical engineer come on, and, I started out the podcast, I was like, "You know, you probably know a lot more about electricity than I do, so, like, I'm
Mhm.
interested to learn some stuff." And by the end, I'm like, "This guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about."
There you go. But I think that any of these things could be either or. I mean, it doesn't have to, people, a lot of these attributes just get put on things, because people want to explain it, just like we just had the dragon thing and whatever. They're like, oh, well, it's got to be, a ghost has got to be this person who died here,
Mhm.
because that's the first thing that your mind goes to. Like, oh yeah, somebody died here, so this has got to. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just somebody wandering through your realm at that moment,
Ball
because
lightning.
it's not repeatable.
Yeah.
So
Ball lightning is weird.
ball lightning.
It seems to have purpose. It seems like I've seen
Yeah.
electricity do weird things in
Oh
person,
yeah.
you know, like just working around it for a while. I've seen it do weird shit. And
Yeah.
like
Saw it take out a
plasma,
tree in my front
plasma
yard.
does weird shit, you know?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Like plasma. Have you heard of talking plasma before?
No, what's that?
Oh, it's like a way that the military can kind of make plasma look like a solid object. It's one of the theories behind UFOs is that it's like
Oh, okay.
some projected form of plasma that looks like a
Mhm.
solid object and moves in weird ways. And you know, you could make plasma if you could accelerate plasma, you could accelerate it as fast as you want. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
And make it look like whatever you want. But again, like it's a little bit over my head. I haven't looked into it too much, but it's
Well,
something,
that's weird.
and
Well,
ball
and
lightning
it could
seems to be
be.
something. It seems to be a real phenomenon to me,
Mhm.
and it seems to move with purpose. It likes to follow railroad tracks for some freaking reason that
Well,
nobody understands.
conduit.
I've also seen a couple videos recently on the internet that I don't know if they're true or not, but they're supposedly, they could be AI, but they're supposedly crop circles being made, which
Oh, right, yeah. I've
looks
seen some of that
interesting,
stuff.
I don't
Yeah.
know, like, I don't buy the whole people with boards out there,
No, come on.
like, I don't buy that one fricking bit, you
A
know?
couple of times maybe, but not as many
Yeah,
as
and not
supposedly
in
they
some of
have.
the ways that they make these things look
No, and
perfect, you
the
know what I mean?
people, yeah. I mean, people get bored and get tired and stuff,
Mhm.
and, you know, 2 old guys in the middle of a field are not gonna work that hard.
No,
You know what I mean? That one,
and
there's a
that
pub
fast.
around the
Those things
corner.
pop up in no time flat,
Right,
you know?
exactly.
And it's not like
Exactly.
farmers are idiots and don't know somebody's in their field.
Right, that's right.
You know, like, they want you to think that these farmers are just so stupid that they didn't realize that somebody was walking around in their field all night. It's like, what, the
Right.
dog didn't hear him? The cattle
Well,
didn't hear
and
him? Like, whatever, like, these people are just idiots and don't know that people are walking around their field all night? Come on.
that they don't go and check on things every once in a while.
Yeah, and it's like that, fallacy of experts, like, "Oh, you're not an expert, so you don't know what you're talking about." Like, all these
Right.
experts say that, these are all human made, and it's like, "Yeah, maybe. I don't think
Maybe,
so."
maybe not.
Like you said,
But
there's
he
weird
again,
things all over the earth that we can't explain, and I
right.
think that that's part of it, you know?
We're still, what do you wanna say? We're still probably in our infancy for all these things. We've made a lot of progress,
Yeah.
but we still don't really know everything, you
Imagine if
know?
we never had, like, Roman numerals or number system that we have today, and we were just using hieroglyphics, and we
Right.
decided to make contact with some freaking planet,
Mhm.
out in the universe somewhere, and we started just putting our hieroglyphics down into fields, like, that would look weird. People would be like, "What the
Right.
fuck is that?" You know?
Right.
Doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. Well, I mean, we kinda did, right? With what's the big drawings in the
Yeah,
desert?
Nazca lines.
Nazca lines, right.
Nobody's
You
been
got
able to
monkeys
explain
and
how those things were
yeah,
made, you know? It
yeah,
seems like that they would have had to have had a view from the sky to do
yeah.
those.
And it basically is just they turned over the dirt, because the only reason it's different looks different, it's all dirt. It's
Yeah,
just all sandy dirt there, and so somebody just dug into the dirt to make it look different.
and imagine what they
Um,
looked like thousands of years ago when they were built.
right.
They would have been
Well, the
incredible.
other question is, how would they even know? But we don't give them enough credit. I mean, maybe they could have made a kite that took somebody up. I don't know.
Maybe, or a hot air balloon, you
Or
know?
a hot air balloon, right? They could, because they could have easily made a fire, and if they could contain that hot air, then they could go up
Look at
on
our
a
hot air balloons
rope.
today. They're made out of wicker baskets and canvas. How
Right.
long is that gonna last, you know?
Right. That's
In the
right.
desert. It once they're not being used anymore, the things are gonna disintegrate in no time.
Yeah. Or, well, how many, I can't remember how many of those drawings, those glyphs are
There's
out
a
there,
lot
but
of them. It took
yeah,
a
there's quite
lot
a
of
few.
time, a lot of effort by people that didn't have a lot of spare time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, they had to survive.
Yeah. So it's not like they just decided to make these things for fun. They had a purpose.
Right. Exactly. There were, it seems to be, it would be, something keeps whizzing by. Maybe we can get their attention
Yeah. And then
if we
you've
do
got, like,
something.
in modern times, you've got, I don't remember what the island's called, but the cargo cults where, like, in World War II, airplanes were flying over this island and a couple of them, like, landed or crash landed, and they gave the native people their supplies, so they started
Mhm.
building, like, wooden airplanes as, like,
Right,
tributes,
right, yeah.
tokens to the gods. And,
Yeah, because
you know,
they stopped by and said, "Hey."
to me, that's the same thing that those Nazca lines are. They were emulating something, and it's not like these are geometric shapes that are, oh, we can measure and walk them out with ropes and sticks and kind of,
Mhm.
put measurement. Like, these are monkeys and
Yeah, it's
weird looking
art.
aliens and shit like that. That it would be so hard to do.
Right, you couldn't say, 20 by 20 by 20,
I don't
right?
think
20
we could do
steps.
it today without, like, airplanes or something like that to check on what we were
Without some
doing.
reference.
Yeah, I don't think it could be done.
I'm trying to think. I don't know if you ever had, well, if you had art class. Do you remember if you ever had art class, you used to do this, this is how you might be able to do it. They used to have to do this thing where you take a small picture and you'd have to blow it up and you put a grid on it, and then you would have the larger paper that had a, like a inch by inch grid. I'm
Mm,
just saying. And then on the larger paper, you'd have a 6 inch by 6 inch grid. And then all you did was you took the little piece that's in that one square and you would draw that line like it was in the inch square on the 6 inch square. And then you blew up the picture. And that was a way to do it
could be.
without having to be, I mean, it's not exact, obviously, but without, with being able to hold it in your hand, right? So you could do something really, really small and then um, increase it by a multiple per gridded out area.
Yeah, that
So
would
it's
have to be a
possible
that'd have
because
to be a massive grid.
that was a
That'd be a massive grid, and we don't even know if
yeah.
these people had a system of measurement.
Well, I think everybody, for because the cubit was, tip of
Yeah,
the finger to the elbow. So everybody has their system of, you always do a hand, right, or
yeah,
you do your foot, or you do your finger, and we've always, I think, had some system of measurement. Even as little kids, you take your thumb or whatever, and you'd be like, okay, this is
yeah,
3 thumbs.
yeah. 6
Um,
inches, this is 6 inches, this is 9
right.
inches.
Yeah, exactly. So we adapt pretty regularly. Now, why would they would make monkeys and all these other things? Who knows? I mean, it's more complex, but who knows? But I think once you hit upon it once, then repeating it becomes easy because it's the same process, but
Yeah.
you just do a different image.
Yeah, that makes sense. It sure would be
But
cool
I
to
don't know
have a
if they had
time
paper
machine to
though.
go
That's the
back
other
and see how
problem though.
these people did all this shit, you know?
Yeah, they'd have to have paper because you'd have to
Yeah.
have something that you, or something that was paper like, so that you could carry it around and utilize it the way you wanted,
They're just carving grids into rocks
Yeah, I
somewhere.
don't know what the Flintstones, right?
Yeah.
They tapped on their tablets.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all just amazing stuff. But it the hard part is, though, is there's so much strangeness in the world that we haven't hit upon, and or at least we haven't, or the public hasn't. Oh,
Yeah.
there goes your dog. I see him in the
Oh,
background
yeah, he's hanging out.
there. He's walking
He's ready
around.
for some dinner.
Yeah, and we just, I'm always skeptical. My biggest skeptical thing is if everybody's poo pooing it, right? They're saying, "Oh, that can't be," or "This is not this or that," or whatever. But there's no real, direct explanation as to why not. Then I'm like, okay, that must be of interest because there's something to it. But all these supposed people who know what they're talking about are
Yeah.
saying, no, there's nothing to it. Don't look
Shut
over
up and
there.
don't ask questions.
That's right. So that always makes me more interested in what's happening because they don't seem to either care or want you to care.
Yeah. Yeah, they just want you to shut up and pay your taxes.
Right. That's going to be my new campaign slogan.
Yeah.
Shut up and pay your
Shut
taxes.
up and pay your taxes.
Yeah, maybe I'll win on that one, huh?
Well, shit, Bob, this was great. I could talk with you all night, but I got to go get some dinner going, so we're
Yeah.
going to call it here.
The dog has already got up and wants his dinner.
Yeah, yeah,
He's the
he's ready
cue.
for it. He's ready to go.
But
All right, man.
no, it's
We'll
been
do this again
fantastic.
in a couple months. I always enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, anytime. Just send me a note whenever you want.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for listening, everybody. Good night.